there, Commercial Construction Coffee Talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Carson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor, Commercial Construction and Renovation magazine. Actually, this one says retail. I've been breaking out the archives. This is January, February of 2008, right before the crash. Anyway, I got Dalton Bennett, Director of Construction of AutoZone at the time. And, it's actually my stepdad, way back when, we knew the original owner of AutoZone. I think that was the story. And anyway, it's just a family story. And he knew the owner, and I think he was his nephew. I forget. But anyway, it's AutoZone. I mean, they're everywhere, and automotive is a very, very competitive sector out there. But Dalton, thanks for being on the cover way back when. Let me see what my picture was. Oh my God, you'll laugh when you see this picture. Look, I've got hair and I'm playing golf someplace. I don't know where, but oh my God, my hair's brown. I was 15 years ago. Unbelievable. Retail keeps going. Anyway, listen, it's Friday, TGIF, weekend ahead, lots going on. I got my DU colors on. Hey, playing Marquette tonight in about an hour. And I'll be watching the game. We win that. We got the Big East tournament next weekend. We win that. We go to the big dance. Coach Cherney, after 42 years, is retiring, has 7 national championships. He's going to go into the College Hall of Fame. And if you're a lacrosse guy, this is like the best time of year. This is like Christmas and Hanukkah for lacrosse. It's like the best lacrosse because it's all the season league championships, and they only give 16 bids. So this is kind of like my March Madness going on right now. So I'll be screaming at the TV in about an hour. And then tomorrow night, our Georgia Swarm, they're tied for 4th place to get into the playoffs for the National Lacrosse League, and they got to win. They're playing Halifax, and they beat them once, I think, already this year, but they have the tiebreaker if they win. So you go to the playoffs if you win, you go home for vacation if you lose. It's that simple. So 2 really exciting games, coming up this weekend, and I'll be busy. So hope everybody had a great week. Enjoy yourself mindset. Always save the best for last. I've got a gentleman with an architectural building product firm, known him forever. I know we're both only 26. He's up in the great state of New Jersey. His name is Mr. Andrew Pennington. He's the national director for a worldwide organization that has a USA division called Porcelanosa. Hopefully I pronounced it right, but you can get me if I didn't. Andy, say hello to our listeners out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
Good evening, David, and hello, readership of CCR magazine. What a great editorial, Dave. It's nice to see you. I think we should just let everybody know that this was done with about 3 seconds worth of planning. So we'll just jump on a Zoom call without.
Come on, man. Never a dull moment in construction.
But hey, thanks for the invitation. I just walked in. You said let's get on the Zoom. Here we are.
Yeah. Hey, and listen, we both have dogs. We know it's feeding time. So, it's the end of the week. And I know, you've been traveling, like the entire month, going to a couple of events and shaking hands and doing business. So we appreciate the varsity effort on a Friday night, going into the weekend.
Anything for you, David, anything for you.
Andrew,
not smokier, but your magazine's an excellent read.
And Andy, we've known each other, 20 years?
I came here in 2007, and one of the first things I did was come down to Atlanta, and
15 years.
And we got involved in one of the CCR in one of your conventions. It was the one at the winery, David. Remember the one?
Oh, Chateau Alon, 2010.
Yeah. So whatever year that was.
Yeah. The crash came, and construction departments got gutted in 2009 and 10, and the housing market went, kind of all went right in a row. And our trade show that we had, 250 exhibitors, a couple thousand attendees, our attendance went from, 2,500 to like 1,200. And then the last year, and I was like, you know what? I've had fun doing the trade show, but we just went to a smaller format with the meet and greets, and it was just so much nicer. I didn't, and I actually managed it. I became the meetings planner. So I took that hat on. But back then, the trade show, I mean, we had some great parties that we put on. I mean, there was one year we were in the Georgia World Congress Center before, I think it was like 07, maybe it was 08. Anyway, we were in George Bush had spoken there when he was president. Anyway, it's a huge hall, and we had a full, 10-piece band, and we had casino night and food and drinks and prizes. I mean, those were unbelievable days. And but
I remember. Do you remember the one on the ranch in Texas?
yeah, the San Antonio one, yeah, where they had where they took
The
you
old cowboy, and he was showing us where the Indians used to
yeah, that
the
just for you
buffalo off the edge of the cliff, and he showed us how to throw the spear. And man, what an evening!
Yeah, when I went, as a mini player, I go down there. So I looked at about 6 or 7 hotels, and this girl, it was a Marriott property, and she goes, "Wait until I take you out on the ranch." So just for all you out there, if you didn't know about this event, it was in San Antonio. After our general meet and greets, we always have an activity. So we bust everybody out to this ranch, and on the ranch, well, it was basically from the prehistoric days, where it's the only place, there's only one other place in the world where they have this like ledge where the cavemen used to drive the bison or whatever you want to call them, big old animals, and they would fall over the hill. And then when they land, they would get stunned, and all the whole tribe would go in there and, kill the animal. And, I was in stunned, but they were so big that they just ate and cooked them all right there. So there were all these bones from like 10,000 years. And I think it was Texas A&M that came to the Marriott and said, "Hey, we want to dig on this property." And this rancher was like, "Go ahead." Anyway, found out he had this thing. So now he does these tours, and he has a weapon that he throws. I mean, it is unbelievable. But he's one of only 2 places in the world where they have this thing. And he digs them up, and he's got a little museum that he put in, and he's been a good marketer. So if you get to San Antonio, you can Google it, cave. I forget what that was a really good part.
Ranch or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, we did a big fireworks at the end, and you know what? We had the electric bull at that event. Everybody's getting fucked off.
My customers from right now, Cheryl Green from Subway was on the booking.
Oh yeah.
Whenever I see Cheryl, we always laugh about that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Cheryl, she's awesome. So listen, we still have a good time. We're getting back on the road. Got New York coming up for my first reception here, May 10th, and got the Mets and the Braves on June 6th, and we're going to see the Milwaukee Tool tour this summer. We're going to see the SoFi Stadium. I mean, we've got some really good, just nice little events. And I've got a couple things up my sleeve too. So with that said,
you said you're in New York City on May the 10th, so I'll see you then if I don't see you.
Shemanti's headquarters. We're going to hold the event. They've got a rooftop. Hopefully Mother Nature will, coordinate with us, and we'll have a really nice event. And if you're in New York and you want to come out, reach out to me.
You're always welcome to come to our place, Dave, if ever you need an event space.
Oh yeah, I know it. Listen, I-17, man. I know where you're at, man. Right down there, north of Newark. That's where your office is. But your New York office is right by the Flatiron in the city.
That's right, yeah. And we've done a CCRP event there, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Some time back.
Hey, listen, it's been 2 or 3. It's almost been 3 years that I haven't gone on the road. I mean, I've done a couple. I've done 2 in Phoenix, and last year I did a couple with the RCA, and this year we're starting, in May. But every month from May on, we're doing 1 a month, and it's always tied with something, and we'll have a good crowd, and and nothing like I haven't been in New York in a long time, so it'll be good to see. I'm having lunch with my cousin. I haven't seen him for a couple of years, and a couple other people, and all in all, I'm looking forward to it. So Andy, you got to tell your story. So we want to know where you grew up, kids, dogs, all that stuff, play sport, whatever, how you ended up there, where you're at now. And then we'll talk about the roller coaster after the first, last 3 years, lessons learned, any new products that you guys have coming out, because you have awesome highline, beautiful stuff in all multiple sectors. And then one positive.
Well, the chef in the post, Dave, thanks for the kind words.
Yeah.
And
so the floor is yours.
I emigrated here with my wife and 5 kids in 2007. And I grew up in a town in the north of England called Stoke-on-Trent, which wasn't really on the radar for up until around the early 1700s, and then it became very famous for pottery. And I remember yourself, Dave, you grew up in Pottstown. As I said, there's a clue in the name. Yeah. And it's the pottery. So the city that I come from had the happy geological coincidence of having slow firing coal and clay sitting next to each other, so the ingredients you need to make pottery. And So yeah, we made teapots and crockery and became the center of the world's ceramics industry right at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. And I grew up in the tile industry. I grew up in the pottery business. I left school 16, 17 years old, and I signed on. This was in 1981, David.
Oh, I was a
and
freshman in your team member. Yeah.
Margaret Thatcher was the prime minister, and we were in the depths of a really bad recession. And the government had come up with something called the Youth Opportunities Program, YOP. So I went down to the local council offices, and they sent me to a tile warehouse. I got the grand sum of £18.50 a week. And you lasted if they kept you on after 6 months, they put the wages up to £21.50 a week. And my boss back then, I spoke to him last week, actually. I'm still in touch with Brian Murphy. He was the owner of the company. And
oh, wow.
I actually called him we had the Coverings event. Coverings is the big tile event in Orlando. And we did the Coverings show last week. And I actually bumped into an old colleague of his from the 1960s, 1970s. And so I gave Brian a quick call, and we always chat about the old days. And there's so much that he was doing with his company back then that's still very relevant today. And so I found myself making sample boards in Brian's warehouse, and we were importing tiles from Italy and Switzerland. And then a few years later on, we started to import tiles from Portugal and then Spain. And so I became familiar with Porcelanosa very early on in my career. And then I ended up working for the company here in the United States. And again, just 15, 16 years ago, moved out here with my dogs and kids, and life's been good.
Oh yeah. Hey, listen. Like I said, I remember the late '70s and early '80s with the gas crunch and the lines, and you had to fill up every other day, depending on what your tag was, and went through 9/11. I was in the city, drove back to Atlanta. Was around for the crash, the dot-com burst. I mean, I go down the list, the Iraq War. I mean, 9/11. I mean, so many things. You look back, but it seems like yesterday. All that stuff happened. And
yeah, it's I think as we get older, you see the past more clearly, and you probably remember things that you should have forgotten a long time ago, and then you can't remember where you were last week. But stuff from the 1980s, 1990s, I can remember crystal clear. And so when I talk with people, colleagues that I had back then, we can really go down memory lane and talk about some real sort of queer stuff that we should have long since forgotten. But that's part of the joy of conversation, David.
Oh yeah, 1981. Those are my sticks from 1981, the year I graduated prep school.
There you
go. That's how old those sticks are behind me. I mean, they're relics, but they, I'm proud of them, and time really does fly, especially when you get older. Time feels like it goes so much faster than it did, when you were younger. The days were long, you never knew. And then here, boom, I get up, and then before I know it, man, it's midnight, and I'm still freaking doing stuff. I'll never get stuff all done on my to-do list, and you're just to-do listed out. You can try to get it done, but yeah. Let's talk about the lessons learned. We've been on this roller coaster for almost 3 years. People are getting back out. I've walked so far this year. I did the National Association of Restaurant Fixtures down in Orlando. I did the roofing show in Dallas. I walked the HVAC show here in Atlanta. I did the sign show in Vegas. I'm doing Light Fair coming up in New York at Javits. I had coverings on my thing. I don't know why I can go, but I'm normally a sponsor with those guys. But I know that's a huge show. You better have some comfortable shoes because a lot of square footage. But it was all the events have been really well attended, and traveling still stinks.
Yeah, people are showing up again, and it's I've said to my colleagues, my team, that really now people are done with Zoom. People are done with virtual meetings and webinars. You've got to start showing up, and it's time to get out and about. And you don't have much to talk about if you don't go on walkabouts. That's the way it works, David. So great to see you out and about, mate. And it's good out there. It's great.
these kind of technology things, like, before the shutdown came, the roller coaster, shoot, I was going to do like one of these a month on a construction site, on the road, and do these interviews, and then I started doing them once a week. This technology is not going to go anywhere. It just micromanages your daily, your travel, during the year. I mean, there's some meetings that you can do virtually that are not worth getting on a plane or driving 5 hours for, whatever. This is what it's here for. You can pick and choose where you want to go, where you're strategic for those one-on-one. And let me tell you, I hadn't traveled in I did a couple events over the last couple of years, but this year I got back on the road, and some people had retired. Some people had moved on to another industry. There were new contacts. Some people went to other companies, and I walk the shows that I have reports for. So, I mean, I'm just getting, people are like, I haven't walked the show since 2020, so but it was good. And they've all been packed, and just a different vibe, a post opening up.
Yeah, we're part of an organization that I really, really like, called NEWH. And it's an acronym for Network of Executive Women in Hospitality.
Yeah, hospitality.
We've always had a very strong reach into the hospitality design segment. And this organization is a networking organization originally set up for women in business, but they let men in now, and they put together the most fantastic. I was going to say they curate the best meetings, bringing the best people together. They do such a lot for a non-profit, and they were doing their meetings during COVID, and it was weird because people were wearing masks, and we were given name badges. So the name badge that you had has sort of like a ribbon on it, and the color of the ribbon determined bump elbows, shake hands, or 6 feet apart. So there was a new etiquette to learn. But credit again to the organisations that kept those things going, and it was a lifeline to the industry, certainly in hospitality, because that just came to a screeching halt. The first thing that goes when something that is hospitality. People stop eating out, people stop traveling. Who's going to do any hospitality design?
But the smart hoteliers, though, they're the ones that were diligent. They might have shut their hotels down, but they probably did some FF&E or new paint or new carpet. So they had the time where versus they would shut down.
Well, you never renovate the hotel when business is good.
Yeah,
because you're selling heads on beds. So every time you renovate the hotel is when you've got a downturn. So
exactly. So there were a lot of hotels that were doing work that no one knew about. But so when the country did reopen, that they would be ready for So
yeah. And of course, one of the reasons that I'm a great reader of your magazine, David, is that you feature a lot of the hotel and hospitality industry that's not always on the radar. And so the last but 2 issues, you had that wonderful article with Valor Hospitality, and I didn't know who Valor Hospitality were until I started to dig into it, and that's when I realized the Elvis Presley connection. And I was in Memphis less than a month ago. I was at the Hilton headquarters, which is in Memphis, and I was always curious to know why there was such a strength of hospitality design in Memphis. And so I did a bit of searching, and then tripped up on a podcast talking about Kemmons Wilson, who was the founder of Holiday Inn in Memphis. And he was he took Sam Phillips, the investment money that Sam Phillips had from selling Elvis Presley's contract, he put that into Holiday Inn. And so the Holiday Inn brand grew from one hotel to the biggest hotel chain in the world. And it all tracked back to Memphis and Elvis Presley and Kemmons Wilson. And then I read your magazine, and you've got Ken Wilson, Valor Hospitality, in the CCR magazine. I don't know how this happens, but again, just
what's funny is, like, when you look at the brands, there's a couple hundred big brands, let's say in hotels or restaurants or retail, and a lot of those brands I've been around since 2000. Well, 99 is when I launched my construction magazine, but then I was with Nielsen. I went off and did my own gig. So I've had the construction magazine for almost 24 years. Well, 24 maybe plus, something like that. Anyway, a lot of those covers that I had in the beginning, like when I started my magazine, I had the director of construction at Home Depot on my cover when they were building like 140 stores a year and saw that whole, ramble growth. And, I had Walmart, had Hilton, Starwood. I mean, I could go down. I mean, we used to have a hospitality magazine, so it was monthly, or every other month. So we had that for 3 years. I mean, we had a lot of people and brands that we talked about. So as you move forward, I've done a lot of the bigger brands. Now it's kind of like, once in a while, when we get the stories, we just run them. So I have another hotelier that just got purchased by a bigger chain, a merger. So now they've got X amount of properties, and out of SoCal, he's coming up next month. And after that,
these are firms that are not on the radar. They're sort of
and they're doing a lot of stuff, a lot of cool stuff. Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah. So at Rob's article, we got it back, and he's actually an editorial board member. I told him, like, dude, why don't you got to be on the cover? I'm getting older. I'm going to be 60 this year. So
one of the things that we did, David, and again, you just triggered my memory from the winery. There was a gentleman that came to the CCR event there, and he was from Vision Hospitality. It was I'm trying to remember his name.
I know who you're talking about. Cap.
Patel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was from Vision Hospitality, and then
out of Chattanooga.
We've done recently is we've started podcasts. So I've been helping to produce podcasts for the company. We own 2 podcasts. One called, I don't think you know this, David, but we own the Hotel Design Podcast.
Yeah. No, I knew the hotel
healthcare design podcast, and so we had Mitch Patel on one of our hotel design podcasts. Wonderful guy, amazing story. So again, connecting the dots.
It was Hitton Patel that we had on the cover. Yeah. So
Hitton, that was quite recent. That was in recent years.
Yeah, actually, Hinton.
Chateau Elan was about 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, no, actually, Hinton. I told him he emailed. I still talk to him, And anyway, I said, hey, I've got my awards. You should submit a project. And he goes, hey, I'm doing this church thing in Utah, I think it was. And he was designing and building this church with a little, maybe hospitality kind of flair thing. He goes, I think, if I get it done, I'll do it. And we could use them down the road, but I don't do many churches. So I was like, yeah, send it to me. I'll look at it. So now listen, a lot of people you meet over the years, you just don't know where they're going to be. And if you're just not laid back, but you're not overly aggressive, and you just stay in touch with people, it's a numbers game. And getting covers, making sales, all that stuff, you just got to stay positive. And they come in clusters. Like we'll get 5 or 6 covers, and then we won't be able to get any, and it's just crazy. So it's the same thing with the podcast. I had to cancel. I'm like, hey man, let's get this thing run, and we'll do it. So
it's content, David. You've got to have content, and you've got to have something that people are going to be interested in. You can't just keep going out there and being a pain. You've got to have something to talk about.
Well, you've got some.
It's been fantastic to us.
You've got some awesome products, and we actually use some products of yours, in our temporary house that we're living in. We ripped up the floors and we, put your product in, and it's turned out awesome. And
well, that consumes quite a bit of my life right now. And this morning I had to send some collateral off to a potential customer. And we're talking about, David's talking, for anyone that's listening here, about LVT flooring, which is this hybrid of laminate flooring clicking together and floating. And our journey with that's quite deep, because we started in 2010, but in 2012, Richard Branson decided he was going to enter the hotel industry, and he announced Virgin Hotels. And the design company in New York that were designing the first Virgin Hotel in Chicago they contacted us and wanted to use wood. They were doing something that was, and I remember the designer. She's a great friend now. It's Siobhan Barry, who's now the hospitality design director at Gensler. And Siobhan wanted to have carpet-free rooms. So wall-to-wall carpet was the floor covering of choice in hospitality in guest rooms. And all of a sudden, Virgin didn't want to use carpet, and that was a bit weird. Of course, as a porcelain tile manufacturer, we'd love to put porcelain tile everywhere, but there's sometimes, you know, certain products fit certain applications, and in this particular case, they wanted to use engineered wood, and we always said that engineered wood was not a good choice to go into a wet room because they were doing the bathroom. They wanted one floor to go across the whole of the guest room into the bathroom. So we did have at that time a manufacturer in Belgium that was producing the very first plastic laminate clipped together, and we ended up using it in the Virgin Hotel. And although Virgin only have a handful of hotels right now, when that hotel eventually opened, I think it was in 2013, 2014, because he's such a disruptor, every key player for all the other brands went and stayed in the hotel. And I spoke to all of them, and I said, "What are you doing staying in the, you know,
checking out the competition?"
I said, "You live in Chicago. Why are you going to stay in the?" He said, I need to be in there. I want to feel what it is they've done." And Fast Company magazine did the top 25 things that the Virgin Hotel had done, and it was published in Fast Company magazine. And one of the key things there was no carpet. And all of a sudden, the TripAdvisor blew up. The TripAdvisor's, you know, guest comments were, "Wow, love the carpet-free rooms. It's great for my allergies. It's great. There's no smelly carpet. There's no stains. It's clean, clean, clean." And now, of course, we're all germophobic armchair epidemiologists because of what we've just been through. But this was way back when you know, cleanliness wasn't front and center. And now, of course, it's front and center. Everybody wants clean stay rooms.
We have 4 dogs, and that material that we laid down was, you know, impenetrable. It has a little coarse base on it, so it's not slippery, and it already has the foam on the bottom, so it just goes right in.
It's quiet, yeah, and it looks just like engineered hardwood. It's
you can't, you know, I mean, it looked beautiful, and it just
without the tears.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, your wife Kristen's the designer, so I mean, you know, it's not like we have a soft target here.
Yeah, she's got her
very discerning eye.
We just got our architecture plans finished for our house, our empty nester house that we're going to start building here up on the lake, and we're not sure. You know, flooring's like one of the last things that you put in, but you still got to spec it. So I don't know. You know, they're like summer southern ranches. That's kind of what they all look like. But I'm sure she'll do a good job, and we'll probably build it and sell that house. Maybe we'll live in it. I don't know. You know, we've had the land for a couple of years, and we're just sitting on it, and we're the last one out of like 50 homes in this gated community on the lake. So we're excited. We're going to be the contractor. We're going to build it ourselves. So we just got the plans, and I got to get my perk test done, and get my permit, and then you know, finalize my construction financing, and then clear the land. And we're going to get rid of all the trees are on the lot. We've got a local mill that's going to come up and pick all that stuff up. So we're trying to be sustainable as we can, and use as many products as I can from people that I know, you know, and you know, in there. And but it'll be fun, and we'll use her crew.
Yeah, what we'll do, David, I'll show you some of the new stuff. We just spent the company just invested 65 million euros on a new production line for a product that's becoming known as sintered stone. So if that's a new term, David, remember where you heard it first, but these are sintered stone. They're very, very large porcelain panels. So this is a porcelain tile that's 10 feet long and 5 feet wide. So it's like a slab of stone.
Oh, wow.
But it's a quarter of an inch thick or a quarter of an inch thin porcelain slab.
I was going to say sheet, you know, or
yeah. So it's basically the tile business now has got to the point where it's taking on natural stone, the slab world, and so we can do a shower now or a whole wall with just one piece and no grout joints. And last week at coverings, I was, you pick up phrases over the years, but we say that grout is the devil. People don't, the first thing that goes wrong in an installation is the grout, and that might be just the application during the installation because it's grunt work. The grout, nobody wants to do the grout job, and grout will make a good job bad or a bad job good. So it's very, very important to get the grouting right. But nobody wants to see grouts. Nobody wants to see big, wide, thick, sanded grout joints. So you need nice, tight grout joints, or no grout joints at all, unless, of course, you're doing mosaic work where you want to see the accentuation of the mosaic because of the grout. But yeah, the tile world has changed drastically from when I was a kid making sample boards back in Stoke-on-Trent, when a large size tile was something over 8 by 6. Anything more than 8 inches high and 6 inches wide was considered large format.
So every year coverings, if those of you don't know, it's like the biggest tile exposition in the world. And I walked every year, and they've got different pavilions for Turkey and Brazil and China, and it's a humongous place. So, but every year there's a hot color, whether it's tan or beige or gray or what was the hot color there this year? Because everybody's got the same thing. It's just built manufactured.
We've been in the industry's been in a concrete rut for the last 6 or 7 or 8 years. You go to the big tile shows in Spain and Italy, Cervisama, and it's been concrete, cement. Whether they're mimicking formed concrete, architectural concrete, polished concrete, power floated concrete, you name it. And so they've now started to bring the size of the aggregate up into the concrete finishes, so that we're now getting to a point where the terrazzo finishes are coming back. So the terrazzo that we were all covering up years ago, terrazzo's back. So it's a cycle, and so we're starting to see terrazzo, cements, concretes, and of course, I know that we have Pantone of the year every year from Benjamin Moore or whoever, but we've been in this greige. It's been greige, 50 shades of beige, greige for the last little while. So I don't know where that's going, but yeah, I think there's pops of color coming around, accents, and it's all about large formats right now and replication of stone, so that we've got that timeless look. Because there's some things that will immediately date a design, but if you're going to use woods and you're going to use natural finishes, they will be timeless.
So just a rundown of all the different divisions that you guys have. You do flooring, you do surface material, you do exterior.
Well, we've got 7 factories, and each one of them has a specialization. And so I think it started, David, when we started to dress our vignettes back in the 1980s and the early 90s, when Porcelanosa were going through boom years. We were the first manufacturer to produce wall tiles that looked like marble. And so a ceramic tile that looked like marble was quite revolutionary, and people wanted to live with it. So we're a very modest company. We're owned by the families that owned and started the business, still own us today. We're into 3rd generation of ownership, as well as 1st generation of ownership, still stewards of the company. But the business was founded with this massive growth in revolutionizing the way people live with wall tiles. And what we did that was different, and I remember from my early days, my experience, was if you created a room set and did a photograph of what looked like a bathroom, and people liked it, people would just buy. They would. You took all the guesswork away. People would, you could be very visual. You could do a magazine. You could get a photograph of a room set, and if people liked it, they'd say, "That's exactly what I want." And that was the origins of the industrial nature of our business, creating the 6 or 7 other factories that we got on the back of the wall tile factory, because we don't like to buy anything from anybody else. We like to make it ourselves. And so when we would have a room set, we would have the room set there to expose the tile and to show how beautiful the tile was, but we'd need a sink, and we'd need a vanity, and we'd need a bathtub, and we'd need a toilet. And so we would be using American Standard or British Standard or, you know,
Right.
Armitage Shanks or Jacob Delaphon, you name it. We would just put that sanitaryware in to make our tile look like it was in a bathroom. And then people would say, I want that, and I want the sink, and I want the bath, and I want the vanity. So we set up a sanitaryware company, and we started to make sanitaryware, sinks, baths, toilets, shower systems, faucetry, and that's Noken. And then we had a bathtub company where we would make spas and showers, which was System Pool. And then we latterly added a significant piece of business to System Pool, which was Solid Surface. We again, from very modest origins, we started to make shower trays and vessel sinks and surfaces, worktops from standard solid surface. But every product has a strength and an opposite weakness, and you learn this as a manufacturer, you learn it as a designer, you learn it as a purchaser. When you buy something, there's a strength and there's an opposite weakness for everything, every argument in life. And so the solid surface product started to go yellow. So we would have these beautiful showrooms with great lighting, and the UV light would cause the solid surface to yellow, just like oil-based paints. White paint will yellow over time. So we didn't like that. So we created our own formulation for solid surface that stayed white, and we ended up with a product there called KRION, which really came into its own during the pandemic, because solid surface is really the best surface to use.
Oh yeah, the whole microbe and
hygiene critical areas. And so you know, hospitality design switched off, healthcare design was flying, and every sector of the design industry was looking at the healthcare design business to see what they could learn from healthcare design to keep their guests, to keep their building occupants safe. And so solid surface really came to the fore as the high touch surface that was safest and easiest to disinfect. And so that's been a huge part of our business. So and again, we just opened this new sintered stone factory, and we've got various segments of our tile branding. So thanks for the lead in there.
Oh, hey,
shameless. You asked me a question about what the company does.
No, hey, listen, probably, listen, I think of you as, tile, cladding, but I didn't know about, the other division. So I just learned something. See, I'm an old dog. I learn something new every day. So
yeah, we did. We wake up every day to learn.
So listen, if someone's out there and they go check out the site, or they wanted to bounce some questions off you, obviously, freaking everybody. It's like, been there, been in the industry a long time. How would someone reach out to you?
My cell number, and I don't mind giving my cell number out.
Oh, I give out mine.
I'm old-fashioned, David. I answer the phone.
Yeah, me too. Hey, your cell phone is the best tool in digital marketing. You're tied to this thing, so you might as well learn how to use it to your advantage.
People don't answer emails. People don't answer the telephone.
I swear they do text.
It's hard to get hold of anyone, but people can always reach out and get me at Pennington. It's the same email configuration for anyone in the company. First initial, last name at porcelanosa-usa.com. And that's Porcelanosa, Porcelanosa-USA or -USA.com. Or call me on 201-245-5424. And, I'm happy. I'm always available and happy to answer any questions.
Andy talked hospitality, but listen, his product can go into any sector. So if you got a really cool project, newer renovation, and you're thinking about, doing something, like I said, we looked around at some flooring stuff, and we looked at his, and I was like, okay, that's what we're going to do, putting the house in. I couldn't be more happier with it. And, obviously, and I could definitely tell you with 4 dogs, you can't tell that I have 4 dogs in this house. You would never know it, with nails, going up and down, flying down the I mean, it's a freaking rough house here. So
We
One
live
last
with
thing.
5 dogs, David.
Yeah,
We
no,
live with,
like I said, we got dogs. So do you.
they've
So
behaved themselves very well so far.
yeah, no,
Because
I got 2 sitting here right now. It's unbelievable. They're like, "Hey, feed me," you know. So one last thing, if you were going to leave our audience with one positive thought or phrase, what would it be?
that's a tricky one, David. I like to feed my brain, and I like Warren Buffett and I like Charlie Munger. I like wise old people because I think we can learn a lot from people. It's like the idea of hang around with people who are smarter than you, or you might learn something. But the thing that unconsciously I have done all my life is I've always looked at my heroes' heroes. So look at your heroes, but find out who their heroes are, and then and that's something that I've always done. And I know that Warren Buffett always talks about his hero being Ben Graham or Dale Carnegie. So you
Dale
listen
Carnegie.
yeah, what a modest, lovely man Warren Buffett is, and he'll talk about his being a young man and being quite withdrawn and afraid of putting himself out there in public speaking. So he went on the Dale Carnegie course. And when I was a kid, Brian Murphy, my old boss that I mentioned to you from 40 years ago, I spoke to him last week, and he sent me on a Dale Carnegie course. I had no clue what the hell I was doing. But as you get older, you realize, there's a lot of wisdom out there. And I think, as Warren Buffett puts it, if you put it in there, no one can ever take it away from you.
Check this out. I went to Dale Carnegie when I was at Nielsen. We all went. And then,
Really?
yeah. And listen, I could speak in public, but I saw people who couldn't, but by the end of 8 or 10 weeks, whatever the course was, they could do it because when you speak on something that you know about, you shouldn't be worried about it, whether it's 10 people or 10,000 or 1,000,000 people in front of you, because you know about it because it's in your brain. And so I liked it so much, I actually became a teacher assistant for Dale Carnegie. I used to go down there and help the the main teacher. Yeah, I actually liked it. And
right.
yeah, so I actually still have when I
Yeah,
moved.
my colleagues always, if ever they're going to say anything nice about me, and I think they must struggle to find compliments, but they always comment about my memory. And I think the memory training, it was one of the things that I learned from Dale Carnegie. And so, looking back unconsciously, that made an impression. And so,
I learned how to like memorize numbers. They had a certain way that you would peg it to a picture where you could remember it. And I got really good at it. And there were all these little things, it wasn't just speaking. There were all these little things that, not gadgets, but just things that you could do, and you could practice it. And then
association.
Yeah. So it was, So there was all sorts of stuff that went on there. I liked it, and I liked seeing people that were petrified to talk in front of like 2 people at the end could actually do it, but you had to come every week. You couldn't just blow it off. You had to go. So it was,
it was an expert. And I had no idea why the company was sponsoring me to go on this thing, because I was just a young man, but it was expensive.
No, that's my company sponsored me. They did it for my, listen, you're going to be the sales manager, blah, blah, blah. They wanted me to make sure I was treating my people right because they might have been older than me, and respect and all that stuff. And here I was, just, I took no prisoners, and, it was sales, it was salesmanship, so it was, but it was really, really cool. When I sold my house, I got rid of a lot of stuff. I decluttered. I found all my Dale Carnegie books. I didn't chuck them. I had my textbook, all my files, and so I put it in like one of the boxes. So I still have all my Dale Carnegie stuff.
Right?
So
I've got
out there. It was a really cool thing. Look, if you're too young, you don't know what it is, Google it. Because it's it was a really cool thing that they did. So Andy, it's time to enjoy the weekend. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. You've been a good supporter of CCR Magazine and our summit and our cocktail parties and everything else. And you make an awesome product. Like I said, I have it in my house. It's beautiful. And
well, thanks for the kind words, Dave. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure to swap notes with you.
And listen, everybody, it's, we're in the middle of Q2. Q2 will be over. Then it's, summertime. And before you know, it's going to be the fall. And then boom, the holidays are here. The year's just blowing by. And if you're out there on a construction site, make sure you stay safe, drink lots of water. We want you coming home at night. And Andy, I will see you on May 10th in New York at the Chimenti event, hopefully.
I look
And
forward to it, Dave. And,
yeah, no, we have a really good crowd coming in.
My emails with HAGW, exclamation mark. HAGW, everybody, exclamation mark. Monday morning comes around very soon.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So everybody out there, enjoy your weekend, clear your mind, because you got a whole nother week to go through next week, and you got to have fun while you're doing it. So Andy, I will see you in about, I don't know, 12, 13 days. And everybody else out there, I'm going to say goodbye from just below the Sugar, I'm in Sugar Hill, just below the Buford Dam by Lake Lanier, about 25 miles out north of Atlanta. And everybody have a great weekend. Andy, I'll see you down up in New York. And we'll see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Talk to you later, Andy. All right?
Cheers.
Cheers.